It's highly likely that Ryan Miller's close to the end of his career. And it's been quite a career because he's one of those few guys who's seen as goalie of the future, and he made it. He was goalie of the future for the Buffalo Sabres for a while. And of course, for people who've been subscribers to this channel for a long time. To me, when I hear goalie of the future, I think of guys who were anointed goalie of the future and didn't necessarily make it. I thought it put extra pressure in a few cases that probably contributed to them not being great. That being said, Ryan Miller absolutely lived up to the advanced billing. And he had one year that was just absolutely tremendous. And, Miller's sort of a divisive guy if you ask where he is. Like, people will say, yeah, he's a really solid goalie. Is he a Hall of Famer? That's where you're going to have a division. And last night, with his 375th win, he passed John Van Beesbroek. Van Beesbroek's a guy as well that you would have a divide on whether or not he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Played very well for the Rangers, led the Florida Panthers to a Stanley Cup final in '96 that without Beezer in net, they don't get there. I don't even know if they make the playoffs. But Ryan Miller comes into the league in 2002, Buffalo property. I don't have my Ryan Miller jerseys. They're all packed and they're in storage right now. So I greatly regret that I'm doing a Ryan Miller video and I didn't save a Ryan Miller jersey because at the time I'm packing, I don't even know if he's coming back this year, much less playing. Lack of forethought confirmed. All right. First year he plays 15 games, 6-8-1 record, 902 save percentage. That's his one tie in his career. It's one tie in his career. Ties went out of the league pretty quick after that. 2003, 2004, he only plays 3 games. He loses all 3 and a 795 save percentage. So this is at a time where, okay, he's the goalie of the future. And then coming out of the lockout, he is seen as the guy now, right? The Hasek days are done, and it's his turn. Plays 48 games, 30 wins, 14 losses, 3 overtime or shootout losses, 914 save percentage for him that year. Not too bad. The numbers are pretty good. 2006, 2007, 63 games played, 40 wins, 16 losses, 6 overtime or shootout losses, 911 save percentage. That 40 wins, that's a rarity for Buffalo goaltenders to hit 40 wins, which is weird because when you think about Buffalo's history, they've had some pretty good goaltenders. It's just they've usually had some pretty good tandems. Or, in the case of Hasek, he just arrived late. If Hasek had played his entire career in Buffalo, yeah, he would end up with like 400 and some wins for Buffalo at least. But hindsight's 2020, right? So the following season, 07-08, he plays 76 games, which was too many. 36, 27, and 10 is his record. 906 save percentage, and he's wore out that year. That 906 save percentage really indicates that he played too much. And for Buffalo, of course, the frustration is that in some of these seasons, you have a team that's excellent and looks like they should be a Stanley Cup at least finalist, and they're not quite there. And this is a very, very frustrating time for the Buffalo Sabres organization. I think probably the most frustrating time they've had. That they had a nice run there and they just couldn't capitalize and win a championship. 2008, 2009, 59 games played, 34, 18, and 6 record, 918 save percentage. So he plays 17 less games and his save percentage goes up. Not a coincidence. And he's rounding into form. This is about as good as he ever looks, for the most part. And I'll get into that when I get into the later years. And it foreshadows that he's in for a really, really good season for Buffalo. Now, Buffalo being one of the top teams in the league, 2009-2010 is an excellent year for them in the regular season. He plays 69 games, a 41, 18, and 8 record, 929 save percentage. That sets a record that stands to this day, 41 wins in a season. Again, surprising that 41 wins gets you the all-time record for wins in a season by Buffalo goalies when you consider guys like Barrasso and Hasek and some of the guys who've been through there. There's been some really good goaltenders for Buffalo over the years. And Miller's the top guy, really honestly. I know, Hasek won all those awards. I'm just talking about statistically at the top. When you look at wins, it's Miller. If you look at any other accolade you can throw, it's going to go Hasek's direction. Best teenage goalie is going to go to Barrasso, though, because Hasek wasn't a teenager when he got there. Anyways, the season following that one had to be a letdown, because it just had to be. 66 games played, 34, 22, and 8 record, 916 save percentage. He's an excellent goaltender, but it's a step down from 2010 when he was a first-team All-Star. He had the Vezina Trophy. Oh, and he's the Olympic MVP and considered the best goaltender in the Olympics. He was on the Olympic All-Star team too. So Ryan Miller really peaked in 2010, and it set the bar at a level that I don't think he ever got back to, but he was still a pretty solid goaltender on a team in Buffalo that's starting to drop. 2011-2012, 61 games played, 31, 21, and 7 record. Again with the 916 save percentage. Very consistent save percentage. Right around his career average. 2012-2013, that's the lockout shortened season. He plays 40 out of 48 games. 17, 17, and 5 record, 915 save percentage. But this is when, Buffalo is starting to go into where they've been since then, which is outside the playoffs. So 2013-2014, his contract's coming to an end. And as much as it felt like Buffalo would kind of like to keep him around, there was some debate back and forth, and he ends up going to St. Louis. Before he goes to St. Louis, plays 40 games, 15, 22, and 3 record. His save percentage is 923. He's still playing really, really well for Buffalo. It's just the team in front of him kind of isn't very good. After getting to St. Louis, he plays in 20 games for St. Louis, I think it was, altogether. One he doesn't have a decision in. 10, 8, and 1 record, 903 save percentage. Now, at the time he got to St. Louis, the idea was this. If he could lead them somewhere in the playoffs, if he could prove himself in St. Louis, he would cash in big time as a free agent. And that was the mentality. And instead, his numbers in St. Louis weren't great. Shortly after a playoff flameout, they decided to go with Brian Elliott and Jake Allen, freezing him out. They're like, all right, we're going to go with Allen and Elliott. Miller's going to be a free agent. In order to get him, they acquired Steve Ott as well. They traded away Jaro Halak, who didn't stay in Buffalo, William Carrier, Chris Stewart, and 2 draft picks. I'm sure there's people like, wait, Jaro Halak was a Buffalo Sabres property? Yeah, for about 5 minutes. They'll have his jersey retiring right after San Jose has that retiring of Hoffman's jersey. They spent a decent amount to get him when you look at it, and they added Ott because they wanted grit in the playoffs. Ott never won anything, really. Anyways, he becomes a free agent. And where does he sign? With Vancouver. Now, at the time, Vancouver is seen as on their way down. This is, of course, after all of the Luongo and Schneider stuff, and they're out of the team, or off the team. So Miller, to me, always looked like he was Luongo's replacement. And they talked a lot about Miller, and I kept thinking, but he's only a year younger than Luongo. He's played a ton of hockey as well. And they kept, and all the press that the Canucks were throwing out there, they made it sound like this is our new exciting goaltender. And I had tremendous concerns. His first year in Vancouver, he plays 45 games, 29, 15, and 1 record, 911 save percentage. So injuries take place. He ends up coming back for the unlikely playoffs. That was the Willie Desjardins year. None of us expected the Canucks to be in the playoffs that year. They go out in the first round. That's the only time they got to the playoffs with Miller in net, which is not Miller's fault. Second year in Vancouver, 51 games played, 17, 24, and 9 record with a 916 save percentage. So again, he's right around his career average on a team that basically sucks. And basically is as nice as I can put it. 2016, 2017, so we're getting up to a very recent history. He plays 54 games, 18, 29, and 6 record, and 914 save percentage. And I watched Ryan Miller in Vancouver. I went to a few games. This is when I started going to Canuck games. And what impressed me with Miller was no matter what the score was, he never seemed to let it faze him. He would still make acrobatic saves even if the Canucks were down 4-0. He doesn't seem to have any quit in him. I gained a lot of respect for Miller when he was a member of the Vancouver Canucks. And while we can talk about whether or not a goalie's greatness is determined in the playoffs, the fact he's never been to a finals, this kind of thing, I do think there's something to be said for a guy who's competitive in games that the team's already lost. And I never heard him pout. I never heard him get angry about where the Canucks were in the standings. And coming out of that trade deadline, he didn't seem to be overly angry that he didn't get moved. Because, of course, Canuck fans were angry that something didn't get done there. Got to get something back. Anyways, Miller's 3-year, $18 million contract comes to an end. And then he signed with Anaheim July 1st of 2017 on a 2-year, $4 million contract. So he's only making $2 million a year, which I know for those of us who don't make 7 figures, $2 million sounds like it's a ton of money. For a hockey player who's already made 18, made a bunch elsewhere as well. He had a 6-year, I think, $31 million contract with Buffalo. He's not playing for the money, is what I'm saying at this point. He's playing for the love of the game. His first year in Anaheim, 28 games played, 12-6-6 record, .928 save percentage, and played as one of the best backups in the league last year. On limited use and a lot less use than he had as a goaltender ever in his career, he stayed sharp. This year, he's now played in 11 games. He has a 5-2-1 record and a .922 save percentage. Again, his numbers are solid. And you could argue, well, yeah, but Anaheim has good defense. And then you look at their numbers this year and go, oh, wait, yeah, never mind. So, yeah, he's put up tremendous numbers throughout his career. And the question, of course, becomes, does he qualify after he retires as a Hall of Famer? He's got 748 games played, 375 wins. You have to think this is probably his last year. It's the end of his contract. He's got his wife and I know he has at least one kid with Noreen DeWolf, and so I expect him to probably retire and be there to raise his kids and whatnot. One of those wonderful perks of being a professional player, you can stay home and raise your young kids. 375 wins. I have to think he's not going to get to 400. I can't foresee him getting a contract somewhere ending up with 400 wins, which will hurt any hopes of him eventually becoming a Hall of Famer. 270 losses, 80 overtime or shootout losses, 1 tie, 43 shutouts, and a career save percentage of .915. He has been an above-average goaltender for his career. He had the one tremendous year in 2009-2010. And he has acquitted himself very, very nicely. And I have to say, and I meant to mention this in the review last night, that Star Wars mask of his that he wore in that game last night where he got that 375th win, the nerd boy in me thinks that might be the best mask I've ever seen in hockey. So he always has very nice masks. Ryan Miller's masks are always fantastic. So whoever the mask artist is for him, guy does damn good work. So there you go. The career of the #1 most winningest American-born goaltender in NHL history, Ryan Miller. And for those wondering, I believe Jonathan Quick currently has 304. He is the most likely to unseat Ryan Miller from this spot next, although John Gibson eventually likely gets there. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.